Let's quickly go over our agenda. So our agenda is to basically set up our machine by installing the Visual Studio on it. Then we will see how to create our first C# project. After creating the project, we'll be writing our C# program, and we will try to execute our program to see where do we look for output of the program. Then we will talk about concept of class file in C#, because C# is an object-oriented programming language. So this also requires, similar to Java, this also requires the concept of classes and objects. After that, we'll go over the concept of data types, and we will wind up our today's discussion with conditional statements, which is if, else if, and if, else if, else, and some of the nested if, else blocks. So let's get started. Now, in order to install Visual Studio, one option is you can go online and you can download the free edition, which is called Community Edition for Visual Studio. So this is the link for that. Or even if you don't have the link, we can directly open the browser and we can search for download Visual Studio, and that will take us to the link that Microsoft provides to give the free access, free version of the Visual Studio. In my case, since I am an MSDN member, so I have a RTM version of Visual Studio in the CD. So let me double click, since I have inserted the CD in my laptop CD drive. So I'm just proceeding with the installation of Visual Studio. So okay, here I'll show you how to download the Visual Studio in case you want to download the free edition of that. So we say download Visual Studio. Okay, the first link that is shown here, that is what we want to get. So download Visual Studio. So we'll search for that, and Google will help out with the download link. So the first link that we are getting here, this is from visualstudio.com, which is a Microsoft website. So let's click that, and it will take us to the page where we can download Visual Studio Community Edition, and this is Enterprise Edition, and this is Visual Studio Code. So what I have with me is Enterprise Edition that I'm installing, but you can proceed with the Community Edition. So installation steps more or less will be the same. So you can see me doing installation of Visual Studio Ultimate Edition. So let's first agree the license terms, only then this next button will be available. And this is to give some feedback to Microsoft about Visual Studio that we are using internally. It records whatever actions we are taking with the Visual Studio, and it keeps sending that information back to Microsoft so that they can improve the Visual Studio. So for now, I'm going to uncheck it, and we say next. When we go next, it gives us a lot of options, because Visual Studio is a very heavyweight IDE, and it provides support for making big projects, and it supports multiple languages as well. So all of that by default will be included in the Visual Studio. So I'm not going to uncheck anything, so I simply proceed with install, because otherwise it becomes nasty what to select and what to not. So let's say yes here. So even if you download the Community Edition of Visual Studio, just go ahead with the default selection of packages that it gives you. And Visual Studio, since it is a bulky IDE, so it is going to take quite some time to get installed. So I'll pause the video for the time being, because during this time it is only going to install it, and progress will continue to move forward to the completion. So once we are about to complete, I'll resume the video. And as we can see, the installation is about to be over, and installation has completed, and it is asking us to launch Visual Studio. So let's go ahead and click the launch button. So since we are launching Visual Studio for the first time, it will take some time for Visual Studio to start. So initially it asks us to sign in, because Visual Studio has become online as well. So in case you have some projects stored online and you want to keep your settings in sync with other devices, you can go ahead and sign in. But for now, I'm going to just use the offline version of Visual Studio, and whatever is the default setting, we'll proceed with that, and we say start Visual Studio. So we should be aware that when Visual Studio launches, it allows us to create projects in different languages. So what we are going to use is Visual C Sharp. There is Visual Basic, C++, and J Sharp support in Visual Studio. So at the time of creating of project, we'll have to keep in mind like which language project we are interested in creating. So we'll see in a short while, once Visual Studio launches, we'll be creating a project in C Sharp language, and then we will be writing our first program in C Sharp. And there we go, Visual Studio has launched, and we have completed the step of installing the Visual Studio. Now let's move ahead to the second step, where we are going to create the first project. Now there are two ways to create project. One, by clicking this icon, this link, new project, or we can go to the file, new, and we can select a project. Both of them mean the same thing. So we are going to use the shortcut way, which is right on our face when Visual Studio launches. So let's click new project. Now when we click the new project, we can see there are a lot of languages it is showing: Visual Basic, Visual C Sharp, Visual C++, Visual F Sharp. It has support for Python, JavaScript. Since we are focused on C Sharp, so let's open the C Sharp tab, and the project that we are going to create, it is a console application. So remember, we are going to start with the console application, which means an application which runs on the command prompt. It won't have any GUI of its own. So let's go ahead and name it as our module 1. So it will take some time for creating the project file. It will do some setup in that, and by default, when we create a project, in that project there will be a default C Sharp file created for us, and it will be given to us. The name of that file is program.cs. So as we can see, directly it opened the first C Sharp file. So if we go over the C Sharp file, it is showing us a namespace. So, and then there is a class, and in the class there is a main method. This is similar to Java. In Java we have packages. So namespace is equivalent to package in Java. Then we have class here. So C Sharp is an object-oriented language. So in that, every program will have a class file created in it, and the starting point of any C Sharp program is the main function. So the code that we need to write, we'll be writing in the main. So now we have created our first project, and we are ready to write our first C Sharp program. That means in main we are going to write our code. So as typically we do in any other language, when we get started, we typically write our first program as hello world. Since we are getting started with Selenium, so let's write our first program as hello Selenium. So here we will be using a class console dot, there's a method in it, write and writeLine. It is similar to system.out.println and system.out.print in Java. So we will proceed with console.writeLine, and in this function let's call hello Selenium. Now what is the difference between writeLine and write? We'll look at that also. Let's first run our program, which contains one line. So let me click the start button on top, and it runs our program, and there is a command window that came and it has exited because we have not added any delay or any stop in our program. So in order to see the output that it was printing, there are two ways. One, we can go to start, so now we have written our first program. Let's go ahead and run our program. Now before running, we need to make sure the last line we are putting console.read key. This is required because once we run our program, it will launch a command prompt, it will show us the output, and immediately it will exit in case we don't use read key. So let me add a comment here. This is to stop the output window for us to see the output. And this is the line. This will print a line and put new line in the end. That is what writeLine means. So let's add one more line here, which is print a line without new line in the end. So console dot write. So we are printing a message here. So this is, and we put one more, console dot write going to be in the same line. So this will also clarify the route of write line and write. Now we have written few statements in our first program. So let's go ahead and run the program. And we can see first line is hello Selenium, and that we have done with write line. So it is printing hello Selenium, putting the new line in the end. And after that, next message is console.write. So it is printing this is. After that, there is no new line. After that, the next line is again write, so going to be in the same line. So that is what output it has produced. Now this command window is waiting for us to hit any key because there is a console.read key in the end. So here we press enter and our program exits. So this was our first program in C#. So we are done with the step 3 as well, where we are writing the first, we have written our first C# program. Now let's move on to the concept of class file. So as we talked about, C# is an object-oriented programming language where we can have, as part of one project, more than one classes. Here in this example we have used an inbuilt class which is console. So in our project, if we want to add more classes, we can right click here, we can go to add, and we can say new item, or there is at bottom there is a class. So we can add a new class here, and let's say this is our, so let's create a class for mobile phone. So this class is representing a real world entity which is mobile phone. As we know, mobile phone will have certain attributes, certain properties. That is what each class contains, properties, and there will be some methods. If you take example of mobile phone, what are the properties of a mobile phone? It will have a string model number, and string, it will have a property which is brand. So let's say if I have Samsung Galaxy Note 2, then the brand is Samsung and model number is Galaxy Note 2. And methods are the interfaces, or are the interaction points for us with the mobile phone. So typically we use mobile phone to make a phone call. So we can have a method to which we will give some input parameter, and then it will do the operation for us. So we can have a method like public void dial number, and we pass it the string mobile number. So this is a method we are adding here. So for now we will not do anything inside the method, we will just print some message to show that we are dialing a number. So here also we'll use console.writeLine because that is the line we use to display something on the output screen. And Visual Studio provides us a lot of shortcuts to write these statements. So if I do CW, this is the shortcut for console.readLine, and I hit tab twice, so it will write the console.writeLine. So next time onwards we don't need to type the console.writeLine completely, we'll just write CW and hit tab twice and it will do the console.writeLine. So here we can say dialing, this is a string, and we also put the mobile number by doing plus sign. So plus means we are concatenating, we are adding two strings together, so it will appear as dialing and whatever mobile number we specify. Then we write another line and we say disconnecting the call. So that is implementation of our method. So this is a class that we have created. Now from our main program we can remove the previous code. Let's go ahead and create the object of our class and try to do some operations with that object. So now we have mobile phone class, so we say my phone equals new mobile phone. That's how we create the objects of a class. And we say my phone dot, it has dial number function which we call, and we say we are calling some random number we can enter, and we will see what output it produces. So after typing these two lines, let's click start, and you'll see it is saying dialing this and then disconnecting the call. That is what our implementation was. So we will cover more concepts in more detail, these classes, what the classes are, what the members of the classes are, which are properties and functions. But here we wanted to briefly touch upon the classes, because any code that we are writing, that is going in a class. So here in our class, the first program that we had written, our class has one function which is main. It does not have any data members as of now. So that was the concept of class file. Now whenever we compile our code, whenever our code gets compiled, what happens? It produces an executable file. So I'll show you. We can right click this file, we can say open containing folder. We can see this is where all the files of our project are being stored. So we go to bin folder, we go to debug. There we will see there is module 1 application file. So this is the executable that is created for our program. So we double click it, we can see the exe runs. So any console application that we create in Visual Studio, we will be able to double click and run that application. And this compiled form of program is called assembly file in terms of C#. So now we are done with our concept of writing a program, concept of a class file. Now let's move on to the data types. Now C# as a language, it has a lot of inbuilt data types. So whenever we write program in a language, we typically declare the variables. So let's say I want to write a program where I want to represent my name, my age, and my gender. So name, as you know, it's a string. So string name equals, so let's put my name as Sandeep. Int age, we assign some value to age, so let's say I'm 30 years. Then we have gender, which is char gender. Gender will be male or female. And then let's talk about my height, which will be a floating point number, height. So 5'11". So these are examples of using data types. So int, char, float, these are the data types. Here it is giving us some error because this number by default will be a double, and we have to convert it into float by putting an F here. Now if you want to print these statements as output, we can write console.writeLine, and console.writeLine also provides us parameterized way of outputting things. So we can say 0 means name is this, age is 1, then gender is 2, and we say height is 3. Now since we have given 0, 1, 2, 3, we need to fill the elements in the same order. So name will go and take place of 0, age will go and take place of 1, gender is M or F. Let's say rather than printing M or F, if you want to print real male or female, the complete line. So okay, for now let's skip that. We say gender and then we say height. So that way we will be printing all these values on the output. So when we run this program, we see it prints the values of these variables on the command prompt. Apart from integral, char, and floating data types, C# has one more data type, which is Boolean. So we can go with a Boolean data type, or for short let's use bool. So bool is married, so we say assign a value true to this, and if you want to print is married, so we put 4 here, and let me split into 2 lines, and we go ahead in the end and we put is married. So that way we will be printing one Boolean variable also, which is married. So this is the concept of data types in C#, and we will be declaring a lot of variables of different data types to create our program, to compile our program. Now the next concept that we wanted to cover as part of this this discussion, this tutorial, is conditional statements. So let's say we want to write a program, and in this program we want to print whether the person whose details are filled here, he is a minor or adult. So the criteria for that will be, if the age of the person is more than 18, he is an adult. If age is less than 18, he is a minor. So in order to print that, we'll use a if construct. So in if, we say if age is greater than 18, we say console write line, he is minor in this case, else we say adult. Now if we pay close attention to it, we are writing he, but what if the gender of the person is not male, if it is female? So we will make that correction in a short while. So this is something that is written intentionally because we want to address that. So right now let's run the program just like that. So if, since age is 30, his, okay, it should be the other way, it should be adult and this should be minor. Now we run the program and we see he is adult. Now what if rather than he is, we want to print she is? So we can also take another if gender equals male, then what we will do, we'll do console.write only we will do, and we will print this message, he is, and space, else we will say she is, and we will give space. Now rather than printing he is and she is, here we will just leave adult, and here we will just put minor. Now if we run the program, it will also value the gender, and let's run the program. Now we see he is adult. Let's change the gender to female, and we change the age to 10, and we run the program, and here it is saying she is minor. So that's an example of if and else block. So this is a conditional block. Now similar to if else, we may also have multiple if else blocks. So here let's say we are printing if a student got the first division, second division, or third division. Now how do we decide his division? It depends on his percentage marks. So we take a float variable, percentage marks, and let's say the marks are 75%, so we assign 75.42. let's say these are the marks. So how we will print he got first division or second division? So first we'll do if for marks greater than equal to 75. So here we are going to print he got the first division. So here we are going to write console.write line first division. Now there are two more conditions left, so we can't write else here because if and else is just a toggle, it's this or that. So here, since there are three conditions, so we'll say else if percentage marks greater than equal to 60, so we call it second division. So what I'm going to do is I'll go and just copy paste it here, and in all other cases, let's say in second case we will print the second division, and in third case we will go ahead console.write line and we will print third division. So let's cut and paste it back in our program. Here we paste it. So here we are talking about his percentage marks. Again, by default, any decimal value that we represent, it is considered as double. So we need to put an F in the end to mark that this is not a double, this is a floating point number. So now if we run this program, we know since the marks are 75.42, it is falling in the first category, it will print the first division. So let's run our program and we say, see, it prints the first division. So if the marks were 30% or let's say 35, and we run the program again, it will print third division. So that was about if else. conditional statement as part of C#. So with that, we have concluded our video, and we are done with these 6 steps. See you in the next video. Bye for now.